We thank God for each and every one of you. And we thank God because one more time He has allowed us to be in the house of the Lord. You know?
Yes, He has. Thank you, Lord. One more time.
And believe it or not, it wasn't because we earned it. It was simply because of mercy. His mercy. And I don't know about you, but mercy suit my case. I didn't deserve it, but mercy suit my case. I want to make a little announcement. Due to the fact that our young people, you may be seated, please. Our young people and the ladies on Women's Day, they're really doing a good job, a great job. And the fact is that in our teaching of the book of Revelation, it's such a book, it's like no other book in the Bible. This is the only book that it was so important that God brought the angel up. You gotta listen to me. It's so important that God had the right to bring him up in heaven in order to record. And when we don't continue this right after, you lose your thoughts, you lose what really is being taught and said. So, we decided that we'll continue teaching, but we're going to pick a special time and evening where we will start from the beginning to the end. And this is the suggestion of my friend and brother, and he will be, because he has many friends that have contacted him, so that they're in different countries and different cities and different places, that they would be able to pick it up online. So, we will be here at a certain time. I will leave that up to him when and what's a good time for him, because his friends have been contacting him wanting to learn about this book. And he brought it to my attention that very few people are teaching the book of Revelation with an understanding and, because Revelation is not something you can just read and preach about. It requires study. It requires research. It requires God's mercy to allow you to get an understanding. The Bible tells you that in all your getting, get understanding. Because if you don't understand, you don't know which way to go or what to do. If you don't understand how to drive, you're going to cause an accident. Or at least an incident. And the Bible tells us this, we can't just preach and teach. He says study. Study. The Bible says you have to study so you can rightly divide the word of truth, and his word is the word of truth. We discussed that due to the fact that I'm not really working right now, one reason is I'm as young as I used to be. The other one is that my body tells me we can't continue to do heavy work. The reason it is because you, my wife, and my family is the sole sponsor of this organization. We don't get grants. And the other churches that I have, they are also smaller and overseas, and they rely on us to help sponsor them. The churches in Jamaica, they rely strictly upon us. And right now, I had to evict the minister because he was abusing and misusing the people. Because I haven't been there in a while, he really is taking advantage of God's people. So I had the authority to remove him because I gave him permission to leave. But for some reason, he thinks God's ability is limited. And the expense is very, very high here. Because due to COVID, that gave an excuse that a lot of people decided that that was a good chance not to go to church. So we're going to, she's getting her glasses, so I guess so, okay. All right, just before we get started, we went over 6 before. We went over 6, in chapter 12, verse 6. We went over 6 the last time, but not in detail. Plus, I wanted you to refresh your memory because we've been 2 weeks apart since we got back to 6. And when you get my age, you have a problem remembering yesterday. That's not 2 weeks apart. I don't know about y'all, but okay. Revelation 6.
Revelation 12. Are you ready to check?
Yes.
Revelation 12. We're reading through the verses 6 to 17.
Okay.
And the woman fled into the wilderness where she had the place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. And the dragon fought and his angels. And prevailed not, neither was their place found anymore in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Verse 10. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation, and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. 11. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Verse 12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil has come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time, and times, and a half a time, from the face of the serpent. 15. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of a flood. 16. And the earth held the woman, and the earth opened her mouth, and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. 17. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnants of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Given the reading of today's lesson.
Amen, amen, amen. And it said, and the woman fled unto the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God, of God, that they should feed her there 1,203 days. First of all, I want you to understand that this woman that is in the heaven, if you remember the programs, you remember that there was a woman and there was also a dragon. Also a dragon. But I want you to understand that this symbol that was in the sky, this woman represented not Mary, but Israel. Are y'all listening to me? Because and I'm going to go a little deeper. I explained to you once before that this was the nation of Israel. Are y'all listening to me? And I gave it to you from the sense of understanding who was the father. And each one of the sons became a tribe, and each one of these tribes developed into a nation. And I went through the part of Joseph and his brothers and so forth and so on. But I want to make it even plainer. Because the Bible told us that Israel fled into the wilderness of Eden, and Moab, which escaped the Antichrist. And to help you understand it a little bit better, let us go to the book of Isaiah, the 16th chapter. The book of Isaiah, the 16th chapter. Verses 1 through 5. Isaiah, the 16th chapter. And if anybody don't have a Bible, raise their hand. Because anytime you're learning of the Bible, you're learning about God's Word, you need to know it for yourself. Are y'all listening to me? Because you may not believe this or not, but some of the biggest liars are preachers. Are y'all listening to me? So if you go to hell, at least you know that you read it for yourself. Or if you want to keep from going, read for yourself so that the devil have preachers too. Isaiah
Bishop, what verse was that?
All right, verses, chapter 16, verses 1 through 5. We're going to skip around a little bit here.
Are you ready, Bishop?
Send
the Lamb to the ruler of the land, from Selah to the wilderness, the mount of the daughter of Zion. For it shall be as a wandering bird thrown out of the nest. So shall be the daughters of Moab at the ford of the Arnon. 3. Take counsel, execute judgment, make your shadow like the night in the middle of the day. I am the outcast. Do not betray him who escapes. Verse 4. Let my outcast dwell with you, O Moab. Be a shelter to them from the face of the spoiler. For the executioner is at an end, devastation seizes. The curses are consumed out of the land. 5. In mercy, the church will be established, and one will sit on it in truth, in the tabernacle of David, judging and seeking justice and hastening righteousness.
All right, go to verse chapter 26 and read verses 20 to 21. Chapter 6 of the same one. We're still in the same book, Isaiah. We're going to chapter 26, verses 20 to 21.
Are you ready, Bishop?
Yes. I died.
Oh, I got it, Bishop. I've got it.
Okay.
In the same day, verse 1, in the same day the Lord will shave with a haired razor with those from beyond the river, with the king of Assyria, the head and the ear of the legs, and will also remove the beard. 21. It shall be in the day that a man will keep alive a young cow and 2 sheep.
You're in chapter
26 of Isaiah, verses 20 and 21.
Oh. I'm sorry, Bishop. It's a new Bible. We're trying to get the pages open.
Okay, no problem.
Brand new Bible. Okay, we're at chapter 26 and verses
20 and 21.
21. Verse 20. Come, my people, enter your chambers, and shut your doors behind you. Hide yourself, as it were, for a little moment, until the indignation is past. Verse 21. For behold, the Lord come out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. The earth will also disclose her blood, and will no more cover her slain.
Okay, now what I need to explain to you is that these that Isaiah is talking about, the time which Revelation revealed, how Israel was running for their lives. The nation was being destroyed and things was happening. Are y'all listening to me here? We learned earlier when we talked about the wilderness, we saw and explained about the sun-covered woman. And we talked about the escape of Eden, Moab, and Roman, escaping the Antichrist. This is the time that Israel was going through the tribulation time, which indicate and verify that it wasn't Mary. This wasn't Mary. This was all happened before Mary even came into existence. Are y'all listening to me? See, those who think that this was Mary, Mary only came into existence in the New Testament. I gotta listen to me here. And one of the reasons that a lot of them thought that it was Mary because the birth of Mary's child was Jesus. And believe me, the devil also wanted to destroy him and her, but God had a fence around. Nowhere in the New Testament was there anything threatened with Mary other than the devil tried to make sure that she was unpure. Because under the Hebrew, if a woman was promised to a man and she committed adultery, the law says she should be killed. She should be stoned to death. Or in the minimum of cases, to put her away. Well, that's why Mary told us that I touched not a man. And Joseph believed her. Are y'all listening to me? But what was being explained in Revelation is what was happening to Israel, the nation, those of God's people, the main ones of the 12 tribes, but there was more than just 12 tribes, due to the that Joseph's oldest son didn't get the blessings of that tribe because his father crossed his hand, even though Joseph put his hand back onto the oil, and he put it back because the blessing was for that younger child. Are y'all listening to me?
Yes.
So, this shows that it wasn't married. It was the nation of Israel going through travel, going through problems and issues. Satan was trying to destroy the nation of Israel. God's chosen people. See, Satan's job was to show he got more power than God. Even though God created him, but Satan got the big head and thought that if he could get enough other angels with him, that he would be able to overthrow God. He knew he couldn't do it by himself. But he convinced that a third of the angels. Now, how many that was, I couldn't tell you because God had a number of rooms of angels. Are y'all listening to me? But the devil was able to persuade a third of them. And this in Revelation revealed those things that was going through the Old Testament, the things that was going through the building of the nation of Israel. Are y'all listening to me? Okay. Even the more verified, let's go to the book of Daniel. The 11th chapter, verses 40 through 45, because a lot of times the Old Testament don't do nothing but, the New Testament reveals a lot of the things that also talked about or done in the Old Testament. Daniel, the 11th chapter, 40 through 45. And I will bring up the New Testament to verify that. But I'm doing one more Daniel, the 11th chapter, verses 40 through 45.
We're reading from Daniel chapter 11, verses 40 through 45.
Okay.
At the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots,
Okay.
horsemen, and with many ships. And he shall enter the countries, overrun them, and pass through. 41. He shall also enter the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. But these shall escape from his hand.
Who gonna escape?
Edom, Moab, and the prominent people of Ammon. 42. He shall stretch out his hand against the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. 43. He shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. Also, the Libyans of Ethiopians shall follow at his heels. 44. But news from the east and the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go out with great fury to destroy and annihilate many.
All right.
45. And he shall plant the tent of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and no one will help him.
All right. Same ones of the tribes of Daniel and all of them. But the ones that escaped was those of the 12 tribes that would represent the 144,000 that at the end of time that it would be war. Those would be the ones that the mark of God on their forehead, where nothing could touch them. Are y'all listen to me? Now, let's go to Hosea and then Matthew. Hosea 2, 14 to 23, and then we're going to go to Matthew 15, 24, 15 to what's called Hosea 2, 14 to 23. All of these, he was trying to destroy the seed. Are you following me? Yeah. Hosea 2, that's chapter 2, 14 to 23.
Which one do you want first, Bishop? Matthew first or?
No, Hosea. You're going in order. And this was how God was restoring Israel. You got it?
Not as yet, Bishop.
All right, one another read it, and then you find it.
It's right here. It's pages that stick together.
That page is sticky.
Hosea, the 7th chapter, verses 14 through 23. Therefore, behold,
Oh, let me get your mic to come up.
Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her. And I will give her her vineyard from thence and the valley of Achor for a door of hope. And she shall sing there as in the days of her youth, and as in the day when she came up out of the land of Egypt. And it shall be at that day, says the Lord, after thou shalt call me Isha, and shall call me no more Bala, for I will take away the names of Balaam out of her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name. And in that day will I make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, and with the fowls of heaven, and with the creeping things of the ground. And I will break the bow and the sword and the battle out of the earth, and will make them to lie down safely. And I will betroth thee unto me forever. Yea, I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness and in judgment, and in loving kindness and in mercies. I will even betroth thee unto me in faithfulness, and thou shalt know the Lord. Verse 22, and the earth shall bear, and the earth shall hear the corn, and the wine, and the oil, and they shall hear Jereel. Verse 23, and I will sow her unto me in the earth, and I will have mercy unto her that had not obtained mercy, and I will say to them which were not my people, thou art my people, and they shall say, thou art my God.
Now, what was the topic that the Bible showed of that particular verses?
Restoration of Israel, the adulterous wife.
Restoration, the saving of Israel. Are y'all listening to me here? And now to help you understand, verse 6 said, in Revelation, we're back to the lesson. Verse 6 says, and the woman fled into the wilderness. That's what we just talked about. The tribes fled. Are y'all listening to me?
Yes.
Into the wilderness. And she had a place, God said, all ready prepared. He just told us that when it was chasing after them, when they tried to destroy them, they went to a place. Read that again. At the beginning. Yeah. Stay there.
That was so very.
I'm trying to show it where you can see it for yourself.
Do you want all of those verses read?
You know, we're getting up to the top.
Restoration of Israel, the adulterous wife. Verse 14.
Hold on one more, please. Go ahead.
Verse 14, Hosea the 7th chapter. Therefore, behold, I will allure her.
Hold up.
I will allure her.
Hold up. Therefore, behold, look. He's telling us to look. Her, not Mary, but Israel, the nation. Are y'all following me now? Israel is referred as her. The nation of Israel, God referred as her because it was the birthing of the nation of his people, which was Israel. Are y'all following me here?
Yes.
And he said, behold, mean look, I'm showing you something. I'm telling you something. This is my people. This is my nation. Why? Because he said, I would bring up a nation that will obey. All of the rest of them, all through Egypt, obey all of those different tribes. God's people. Enoch people. They didn't obey. So he allowed them to be destroyed. Took over Egypt. Is it getting a little plainer now? Now go back to the top and read that.
Restoration of Israel.
Or the what? What was it?
Restoration of Israel.
Restoration means to restore Israel. Are y'all following me here? We have to learn this step by step, because if you just read and don't have the comprehending, then you still going to be without knowledge or understanding. Go ahead.
Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her.
Hold up, listen what it's saying. Read that one more time. Look.
Therefore,
Look, I'm showing you. Hold on, I got to get a little bit of time out here for it. Y'all follow me here, because for me to go here wrong and to not have an understanding, then it's not teaching. We're here to learn, to understand. Read it again.
therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her.
Hold up. Now we're going here where it says, and the woman flee. Where did she flee? In Revelation. Into the wilderness. Are y'all following me here? See, it's no good for me to understand. You don't understand. So I'm showing a preparing, showing what he said and what was done, and how Israel had fled, how Satan, the dragon, tried to kill them, tried to drown them. But God gave her wings. Are y'all following me here? God lifted them up out of trouble. And they fled. They couldn't find them. Dragon couldn't find them. Even though when they came out of Africa, out of Ethiopia, and they crossed the sea to escape, he tried to destroy. That's why I'm going from verse here to verse there to show you what happened, just like he was explaining what happened in Revelation. Are y'all following me? And this kind of thing, sometimes you got to have two Bibles, so you keep one open with the lesson and the other one to the research, so where you can compare And the woman fled into Israel. Who is the woman? The woman is the nation of Israel. Are y'all listening to it? It was those tribes that he picked that ended up to be 144,000. All right, read it along. Yeah. Read it along, the other part. I mean, where you stop at.
That was verse 14, now I should read verse 15. 7th chapter of Hosea. And I will give her her vineyard from thence, and the valley of Achor for a door of hope, and she shall sing there, as in the days of her youth, as in the day when she came up out of the land of Egypt.
Hold up. Did you get lost?
Yes.
Okay.
That was Hosea, the 2nd chapter, verse 15. Second chapter of Hosea. We're reading from verses 14 to 23, and that was verse 15.
Thank you.
The best way to do that is to have two Bibles.
We got it.
Okay? Now read it again so you know that.
Hosea, the 2nd chapter, verse 15. And I will give her her vineyards.
I will give who her vineyard?
Israel.
I will give Israel a vineyard. Now, let's go back to the lesson right quickly. We're coming back and forth like this is so you can have an understanding. He said, and the woman fled into the wilderness where she had a what? Place prepared of God, that she should what? Flee there. This is what the place is telling you what he did, the nation when they was running, when they was getting away from. But those parts that were destroyed was those in Egypt, those in Ethiopia. But the 444,000, the one that had the anointing of God on the forehead, they was able to flee. Why they was able to do it? Because God already had a place prepared for them. And our lesson in verse 6, it said, and the woman fled into the wilderness where she had a place prepared and the place was Edom, Moab. and among to escape the Antichrist. Are y'all listening to me? And all of this verify that it had nothing to do with Mary and the birth of Jesus, other than he would come from these tribes. Are y'all following me? And the Bible referred to nations as her. Are y'all listening to me? His children, his nation, referred to as being birthed as her. Are y'all following me? And not our lesson to put a place prepared of God that they should what? Feed her there. And over here, read that part you just read.
And I will give her her vineyards.
Hold on. I will give her what?
Her vineyards.
What is the vineyard? The vineyard is all the fruits and the things and the food. Are y'all listen to me? He already had prepared all of the food, all of the things, everything she needed for 1,000. Are y'all following me here? All right. And I will feed her 1,260 days. In other words, he had everything prepared for her for 3.5 years. Are y'all listening to me here? This is why I can't just read and tell, because everything points to Mary. But Mary wasn't here in the Revelation period. You gotta follow me, because this dragon was Satan. And he said that his dragon tail was sweet down. I'm not through here. Okay. This dragon tail would come down, and you would see on his tail that he saw a third of the angels he would control and take. And if you remember, Satan persuaded a third of the angels to help him to overthrow God. Are y'all following me here? Maybe this is why a lot of people won't teach you Revelation. I don't know. Are y'all following me? This is why I can't just read the whole verse and don't get the understanding. And when I can show it to you word by word, then it's much clearer. Which shows that God is talking about Israel. God is talking about that 144,000 that he claimed as his by putting his mark on their forehead where nothing could hurt them, nothing could touch them. And remember, this period took 7 years. This is the first part. 3.5 of the first part of the years. Are you all listening to me? Go ahead, read a little more.
And it shall be at that day, says the Lord, that thou shalt call me Ishi,
All right,
and shall call me no more Bela.
all right. Okay, now we know that even Mark and we escaped the Antichrist and made it to a place of refuge for Israel in the tribulation. Okay. Now do we understand a lot better who this thing in the sky, this woman that the travail was about to have? A nation, birth a nation. Now remember the promise of the Old Testament. God said He will raise up a nation that will, what? Obey. Because all of the Old Testament, they just kept messing up, kept messing up, kept messing up. Until God got disgusted. But God didn't quit. He said, I will raise up a nation. So He picked 144 to start the battle to fight, and from this nation, because the original plan to be saved was the nation of Israel. But in the New Testament, a revelation was given to her. Who is the her? The her was the woman that pressed through in the crowd. The woman that had an issue for 12 long years. And when she touched the heel of the garment, she was healed. And Jesus said, who touched me? Are you following me here? And if there wasn't of the tribe, they was considered a dog. And was asked by the blessing. And God and Jesus explained to her that I come for the nation of Israel, not dogs, not those beyond and below her. And the woman revealed the revelation. Even the dog deserved the crumbs that fall from the table. And that's when it came that whosoever will, let him come. Are y'all following me here? Whosoever, all you got to do is obey and believe. Or believe and obey. There's no other way. If you want to be saved, you must first believe, then obey. And obey is so powerful, so meaningful. Obey exceeds faith. Are y'all listen to me? Obey exceeds faith. Because when you come up with faith, faith means to believe, believe, believe. But it requires more. And the more is obey. Because when you obey God, you begin to work for God. Are y'all listening to me? Obey is your work. James said that even the devil believes and fear, but you don't serve him. I gotta follow me here. That's all people say. There's no other way but to obey. Having faith in God and not obey God, in hell you're going to open up your eyes. Faith means to obey and know. The devil knows God. He knows his awesomeness. He knows his power. He knows what he can do. But he don't obey him. Are y'all following me here? You see how much is in this one verse and we ain't got no way yet. But it's one of the 6th verse. But if I just read this and don't give you understanding, then I'm doing wrong, because the Bible says, in all of your getting, get understanding. In everything you get, you got to have some understanding. And this follow the rest of the things that follow. Obey. Faith requires action. Faith without works is dead. Your works is to obey. Your works is to serve God. Your work is feed the sick. Your work is help one another. Your work is forgive those who despitefully use you. Your work is tell somebody about God, what he's done for you. He'll do for others too. I gotta follow me here. Your work is pray for those who despitefully use and abuse you. Your work is, if you smile on one cheek, turn the other. That's your work. That's your work. And even though you are not of the nation of Israel, the crumbs that fall from the blessing of God's table, which is mercy and grace, you deserve it. You deserve it. Even though your original people left God, those in Africa, all of them did, but the original pharaohs and all of them started developing their own God. You gotta follow me. Prepared a place for 3.5 years. That was the first half dealing with the book of Revelation. That was the half that when God sent those two that didn't die, both Enoch and Isaiah. that came down and preached and taught. And they had the weapons of speaking fire out of their mouth and destroy anybody that wanted to hurt you. Those are the two witnesses that didn't die. Enoch didn't die. He walked away with God. The other one rode on the cloud away and promises heaven that if his manna failed, that he would have the blessing power. Are y'all listening to me? Go to the other one now, the other book. Matthews. And the reason I'm going to that is show you that it verifies from the New Testament. Matthew 24th chapter, 15 to 22. Hold up to everybody find it. Do we have it? One moment. As in the New Testament, Matthew would be the first book. Matthew would be in the Synoptic Gospel. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Go ahead.
Matthew, the 24th chapter, verses 15 to 22. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation.
Hold up. When the time comes, in the last days, are y'all listening to me? You're going to see the abomination. In other words, you're going to see all kind of awful stuff. Man with man, woman with woman, killing babies, selling children, taking young girls into slavery, sex slavery. People telling good is bad, and bad is good. Telling them it's all right to murder. In those last days, sound like these days now. Sound like we're in the last days. Read a little more.
When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation.
The abomination of desolation. The awful killing and the awful things that are done wrong, that the Bible says are doing wrong. And these things are nasty things. They are things that are disgusting. Are y'all listening to me now? Go ahead.
Spoken of by Daniel the prophet.
The same thing that Daniel prophesied earlier in the book of Daniel. Are y'all following here? Go ahead.
Stand in the holy place. Whosoever readeth, let him understand.
Ah, come on with this. In all of your getting, first get understanding. If you don't get understanding of God's word, then you don't have nothing. If I can preach and just talk about what I learned, and you don't get understanding, then things ain't what God's saying. And all of your getting understanding, because without understanding, you don't have knowledge. and run through this, and you don't have understanding, that's a bearing on me. I'm the one gonna get whooped. And I got enough stripes on my back without you allowing me to not give you understanding, and I get stripes more on my back. No. You got to get understanding. Don't care how good I teach, don't care what kind of voice I got, or how it sounds. If I don't give you understanding, then I didn't give you the word. Because the word says, in all of your get understanding. My daddy put it this way. Education ain't no good if you don't get understanding. You ain't gonna get nothing but what he say? A said and an educated fool. That's my sister, she know that. Oh, that's right, you did hear me a little while. You know it because you lived it. Still trying to get out of it. He went to college and ended up that way. And all of your get understanding. That's why he battled with me right now. He don't have understanding, but he think he got knowledge. That's what God said. If you read every word in that book and don't have no understanding, then you're just a red book understanding fool, because you're going to act foolish because you don't have understanding. That's why I can't let you just read through this and you're not understanding. We've been on one verse trying to get understanding. Why? Because the Bible says in all that you get understanding. The little that you get understanding. The great amount that you get understanding. Come on.
Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains.
All right, hold on. Those which are in Judea, which were one of the holy cities, are y'all listening to me? God says, start running. Because Satan and his crew are coming. Because these are remnants. These are the remnants of Israel. Are y'all following me here? Go ahead.
Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house.
When this thing go to happen, don't go get no money. Don't get no extra clothes. You are to flee, meaning run to the mountaintop. Are y'all listening to me? See, when Satan come to destroy, and when he come to destroy, come on.
Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes.
What you got on, that's what you run with. The jewelry you got back there, don't go back. Are y'all listening to me? The wife, the honey, or the money, Don't go back, try to get it. Are y'all following me here? Your job is to run to the mountaintop. Come on.
And woe unto them that are with child,
Uh-oh. And all those that are pregnant, where they can't run, they got a problem. Whoa. That's a warning. Whoa. Something is going to stop it. Come on.
and to them that give suck in those days.
And those that are feeding your baby, sucking. You got to run. And one of the things about running, we project ourselves back. But if you hold a baby, you got to run with careful. You can't do that full stride. Come on.
But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter.
And good God, I hope that when it happens, it's not during the time that it's snowing. Because the snow will slow you down. Not only that, if you got to run a good distance, you're going to freeze to death. Because you didn't have time to grab no coat, no blanket, no baby food. Are y'all listening to me? Come on.
Neither on the Sabbath day.
Because you're stuck in one place. And all the things are coming down. In other words, right now, where we at right now, anybody know what's going on out there? Outside? Nobody knows. We don't know. When we discover this, it's too late. When we should have been running, we would have been inside. Are y'all listening to me? Go ahead.
Verse 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, not ever shall be.
Okay, listen to that. This time would be so awful, so terrible. Now, if it's so bad that it's never been before, I can tell you about some times that got rough. There was a time when no flood came. It's going to be worse than that. Are y'all listening to me? There was a time that God rained down fire. And the only one that needed no love for was the one that was on Noah's ship. I got followed. So it's going to be rough. Go ahead.
Verse 22. And except those days shall be shortened, there shall no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, these days shall be shortened.
And y'all listen to me. And if God don't shorten those days during this period, none of us will be saved. But God gave a way out. He said, elect may be shortened. He will be shortened. I might be shortened the days. Are y'all following? That will bring us to the end of our lesson. And we only dealt with verse 6. And y'all listen to me. Now you see why you got to teach this at a separate time. We only dealt with verse 6. That brings us to the end of our lesson. Have we learned anything? We thank God for each and every one of you. This is why teaching requires more than just reading.